Hi, I'm Kim Heil. I'm the Associate Artistic Director of the Old Globe. It's so great to see all of you for this Insight seminar for Noises Off. So thank you for being here. I do want to extend our eternal thanks to Vicki and Carl Zeiger, who are the sponsors of this program. I really feel like this seminar has enhanced the viewing experience of so many of our patrons, and so we're so grateful to them for continuing to support it. I have to my left, you know, I sometimes I sneak up here with a little piece of paper that has a bio. I know this guy well enough now that I just know his bio. Yeah, I was going to say. You may all know or remember Gordon Greenberg, who, yes, of course, who was the director of Ebenezer Scrooge's Big San Diego Christmas Show, as well as Crime and Punishment, a comedy, as well as Dracula, a comedy of terrors, as well as, no, there's two more. I just named the most recent ones. He also did Heart of Rock and Roll, which then transferred to Broadway. And he did, many years ago, which was the first Gordon Greenberg show that I saw, Stephen Schwartz's Working, based on the Studs Terkel novel, a book. Which was, gosh, 2006, did we say? 7? Crazy. You were 12. Oh, also, thank you. Also, it was Gordon's. Oh, you knew that my my husky tones were not what you were hearing. So it was also his birthday yesterday. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
So Gordon actually, in addition to all his Old Globe credits, has done many, many things in New York, in the UK, has some exciting projects coming up in, gosh, how many? I'm not going to name them because I know they're not announced officially, but how many shows do you have between now and the end of 2025?
Yeah, a lot.
Like 3 at least that I can name.
Well, after this, Baker's Wife. That's announced. That's moving from London. It was at the Chocolate Factory, and it's going to be in New York in the fall with an Academy Award-winning star to be announced. And Single White Female, we're starting based on the campy slasher film from the 90s. That's going to be in England because they love making fun of Americans. And what else am I doing? Oh, and Scrooge, we're doing an East Coast version. And that's... Oh, this one's bad too. Okay. Woo! That's better. Oh. So Scrooge is going to be an East Coast version at George Street. It's going to open there. And then Dracula has a tour. So there's a lot of stuff. And then I think there's others. Oh, and The Wedding Banquet, that movie, The Wedding Banquet, the Taiwanese film from the 90s, which recently had a reboot with Bowen Yang, but it kind of came and went pretty quickly, which I'm kind of glad about because we musicalized the first version, but not the second version. So anyway, we're doing the first version as a musical in Taipei and Kaohsiung. So that's coming up.
Busiest man in show business.
Yeah.
I thought I would start actually by having you say nice things about the Old Globe, Gordon.
That's really easy for me.
Which is to ask you, why do you keep coming back?
I mean, look outside. That's number one.
Besides that.
This is paradise. You are all so lucky to live in a town like this. It's not only beautiful, but kind and has a disproportionate sort of accomplishment in the arts. It's amazing between here and La Jolla and the museums, and there's just so much bounty here. I love it. And then on top of that, of course, the Old Globe and the entire staff, everyone here is generous of spirit, amazingly talented, very smart, very supportive, and what could be more privileged than to like be in a place where all these people are supporting you and saying, just do what you can to make us laugh, make some art, find something that illuminates the crevices of humanity that we don't think about every day, and give people a little companionship, emotional intelligence, and a break from all of the stresses of everyday life. That's why we're here, and I feel just so fortunate every time I come here. Yeah, everything about it. It's just walking to work, finding, coffee on the plaza, Lady Carolyn's pub, all of it.
Love that. Well, I'm just so grateful that you come back because obviously you're in demand. So I feel very fortunate every time we ask you and you say yes. And I will say that, Barry Edelstein, our artistic director, tells the story that Noise is Off is a show that has come across his desk, I don't know, at least once a season. Whenever we're planning the next season, someone always says, Noise is Off, as though it's the easiest thing in the world to program. And if you haven't seen it, actually, I'd love to know. Show of hands for people who have seen it on stage. Okay, so a fair number of you have seen it, but it looks like about half have not. So I'm not going to spoil it. But it is, I think, one of the most difficult comedies in the theater that someone can take on. So for someone to just sort of blithely suggest, hey, why don't you produce Noise is Off, it just kind of shows how somewhat ignorant some people are of how difficult comedy can be. However, so all over these years, right, so people would go to Barry and say, hey, how come you haven't done Noise is Off? Why don't you do Noise is Off next year? And his explanation for not doing it is, it's so hard. You need the right director to do it. And I don't want to take too much credit, but when we had the conversation, I was like, well, what about Gordon Greenberg? No, we both came up with the idea, and we both were like, the big flashing light bulb over our heads. Gordon Greenberg is the perfect person to direct Noise is Off. So I want to ask, because I would think that a director being asked to direct Noise is Off their first reaction, I would assume, would be, that's terrifying.
Which is exactly why I said yes.
But you got so excited. So tell us why.
I think it's the same. So many of the plays and musicals I've been directing over the last decade are things I've either written with Steve Roser, my co-writer on Scrooge and Dracula and comedy, Crime and Punishment, or things that I developed from the ground up, musicals like Heart of Rock and Roll or Holiday Inn or the other shows I've done. And so it's rare to do just a play. I did 2 years ago, I did Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf at the Geffen up in LA, and I felt the same way. Scared, but thrilled, because it's a chance to get inside the mind and mechanics of a genius. And whether it's Edward Albee or Michael Frayn, or, there are countless artists who I admire, and Under the Trunk is a place that I feel, or Under the Hood as it is it? Yeah. What do they call Under the Boot? What continent am I on? It just feels like a chance to get to understand how the sausage gets made. And the funny thing is that Steve and I are in the midst of writing another commission for the Old Globe, which you'll see probably in a year and a half. And it like Noise is Off is multi-layered. So we're challenging ourselves to go a layer beyond Dracula, and the storytellers start to have their own story, if that makes sense. And it's not easy, but doing this play has helped me start to understand what are the key moments to creating something like that, where you can actually invest both in the story itself and the storytellers. And in some ways, Working was like that. It was the beginning of a notion. Those of you who saw it, the challenge with Working is that it's so many characters and there's very little through line. The through line in the book is Studs Terkel himself, the historian, the sociologist. The through line on stage became the actors, which is why I put the dressing rooms there, and I thought, okay, we'll be rooting for the actors just to get through this marathon. And that marathon is nothing compared to this marathon, which, we've been already through the ringer. We have such talented, fearless actors led by Jefferson Mays, the great Jefferson Mays, who many of you remember from Gentleman's Guide. He did his Scrooge here last year.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Christmas Carol. I Am My Own Wife on Broadway. Just so many things. Pygmalion, and he's hilarious and loves it so much. It's all we do is make each other laugh all day. What a privilege. What a joy. And because of that willingness to go there, every other actor sort of has the same passion and the same abandon and the same thoughtfulness and care for each other at the same time. So that has been amazing. I'll say at our first preview Sunday night, which was amazing and also terrifying because one of our actors was out of the show, I guess I can say. He injured himself in tech, rolled his ankle. So we brought in the guy who just closed it at Steppenwolf in Chicago, who had injured himself during that run and left that show. And he went into our show in a day. And then all we had was Saturday, put him in, spent 12 hours teaching him the whole thing. Because our version is quite different from, if you know Steppenwolf, it's a very different sensibility. And he did it, and the audience went crazy. And afterwards, I heard people in the audience talking about their personal experiences with the play, and they all had like kids who did it. Oh yeah, my son got a concussion doing that play. My daughter broke her arm. Haha, it's great. It's more dangerous than football. It's like.
It's also that particular character, I think.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it's always that guy. That character falls down the stairs. You'll see. But it's so exciting and so much fun to just make people laugh. And people love to watch actors in distress, I guess. Because this is like 3 hours of that. But we've, of course, had to choreograph it to give them very clear, safe guardrails. I always say, like, directing a show is like building compartments for actors to play in. And on a broader show or something like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, you're dealing with a sort of nutritiousness in the soil. I'm trying to think of the best metaphor. You're really just sort of giving them fertilizer and then giving them broad compartments. In a play like this, the compartments are really small because everything has to be so specific. And if one door is not slamming at the right time, then every other door is off. And it's like just a series of dominoes or Christmas lights. When one's out, the whole thing goes out. And we have to make sure everyone's on their game. And this cast is very good at paying attention to each other and being in tune because Sunday night, I'm not going to lie, like not every line was there. And so you couldn't tell where it was an intentional mess up and I just thought, is he losing his mind or am I? But everyone stayed with it, which was part of the fun. And also doing the show, there's a meta thing that happens where actors start to become their characters. So Orville Mendoza, who I've done like 12 shows with and is a dear friend, is playing Selsden. He's probably 10 years too young for the part. And he thinks he's 20 years too young for the part. But you'll see. He's very funny. And he's also becoming Selsden. Sometimes he falls asleep during rehearsals, and we're like, horrible. So I love it, though. I love that it's happening. And then likewise, Brooke, Michelle, we have this amazing Michelle Ventimiglia from New York, and she's playing Brooke, who's kind of, I guess in 70s parlance, because it takes place in the 70s, you would have said bimbo. I don't know if you can even say that word. I may be canceled. But she's an airhead. She's an airhead. And, cut that from the tape. But she's not in real life. Michelle is very intelligent. But I think once you get into the character and you start getting, sorry, like, it just becomes who you are. Like, it's so easy to fall into that. Maybe it's just seductive, but...
I have to say, so when we were putting Andrew in,
yes,
okay, I don't want to give it away, but there are moments. The first scene, I'll just say, is because it is a rehearsal. Is an actress saying, "Do I take on leave the sardines or take off the sardines?" Right, this is kind of a famous thing from the show. And then when we put it Andrew, he was like, "Do I take the bag? Am I putting down the bag?" I was like, "Oh my God, it's like art mimicking or life mimicking art."
Well, and that's also speaks to the brilliance of the show. Michael Frayn is a man who also wrote Copenhagen about quantum physics, and this, which took him years and years to write. I think he wrote it over like more than a decade, because he started writing it in the early 70s, and he wrote it as a one act, and now it's 3 acts. Although acts 1 and 2 are together, it's quick. It's not bad. Don't worry. I don't want to panic you.
It goes by really fast.
Yeah. And he kept honing it and trying to get as specific as he could with the staging instructions. And it's interesting because I did the same thing for Dracula when it was published, because Dracula is now being done in not my production, but other productions all over the world. It's in Brazil, it's in France. And I put all of the stage directions in there and said, feel free to use these. I know these work, but if you come up with better, go for it. That's awesome. And he kind of did the same thing here. So you'll see Act 2 has about a 30-minute stretch where you're watching backstage. The whole play flips, the whole set flips around. You're looking at it from the backstage while they're performing the play you saw in Act 1 on stage. Meanwhile, everything that's happening behind the scenes is more or less in silence. So it's like a 30-minute comedy ballet that we had to create in the room. And he gives you suggestions, but of course, us being ambitious and silly and inventive made up a lot of different things, different nuttiness, which also made Saturday a nightmare because it was all new for him. But that's one of the great challenges. And I guess to answer your question in the end is, a challenge is what it's about. And they say, that Malcolm Gladwell book, Tipping Point, where he talks about 10,000 hours or 10 years to become an expert. And as I look back on my career, because I went to Stanford, then I went to film school, and then I was a producer of commercials at J. Walter Thompson, which is not even in existence probably anymore. And every 10 years, I seem to switch careers, and I haven't. I've been directing now for over 20 years, and I think it's the writing which stays exciting and challenging, and then plays like this that are difficult and demanding, and it's like the feeling when you're skiing, like you have to be in the moment or you are literally going to hurt yourself. And I think I like that pressure in the workplace too. Like I have to be there, and I really have to use all my wits to make sure everyone is safe, everyone's telling the same story, I feel a responsibility to make a happy, buoyant environment, because there's no place I'd rather be in. I want everyone to enjoy that. As Jefferson Mays says, you don't direct rehearsals, you host them.
You even had a charcuterie board today.
Yes, yeah, we did have charcuterie, thanks to my sister.
So, as you mentioned, you had the script. Obviously, you had the script of the play, and it had Michael Frayn's stage directions, much in the way that you have them in your Dracula. But I know that you even found moments in between some of his moments. And I'm just curious how you and your actors arrived at those moments. Did you look at everything in the night before and decide, there could be some dead air here. I think we need a fall. And then you tried something that next day, or was it something that was just discovered in rehearsal? What was the process?
Well, I always come in with a roadmap, and I rarely get as detailed as I did on this show. I must have read the play 25 times in the last few months, and I kept making notes and notes and notes just because I was so nervous. I didn't want to ever be caught up and be completely in the dark about a moment. Although I will say, as a director, just as a parent, you have to be prepared to say, I'm not sure, let's find out together. And it buys you a lot of respect there. But in the case of this, I came in with the map, we started with that, and then a lot of the suggestions were from the cast, from Angie, our great stage manager, from Barry, of course, Kim, people come in, and I welcome all ideas towards making this beautiful collaboration even more interesting, because the rate of new ideas in a play like this is very fast, even more than a musical. Every 5 seconds there's another idea happening, and it's multi-layered, as opposed to if you look at an opera, the rate of new ideas is every 10 minutes maybe. I don't know, it just feels like there's a pyramid. I don't know. That's my feeling about opera. Someone will kill me for that, probably Barry. But that's the thing. You have to be quick, and it takes a lot of ideating and brain power and thought partners. And so, yeah, we would try everything, and then you can tell in the room, sometimes you just say, nah, that's not funny enough. We could do better, or let's go back to the script, do what they did. And then you get to a place where you sometimes have to kill your darlings, which is picking and choosing. And if there's two things going on at once, you can't, we call it a hat on a hat. You can't have a joke on a joke. So just one idea at a time, which is also difficult primarily for actors, because once they get to know it and they get bored, they don't have that same little sort of frisson of excitement that they have in the room when they first discover a funny thing and people laugh. And it's funny, I must have told it here, but this is one of my favorite stories that I always have to tell like 3 to 4 months into a longer run, where the laughs sort of start to wane, and actors as a result can either sort of pull back, push forward, or recommit to the truth, which of course answer C is the correct one. But when they push, which is normally what happens, particularly in a large theater, if you're going to see something like at the Civic Center, those actors feel like, I got to reach everyone. But that's, as you know, the quickest way to kind of like sort of turn off an audience usually. And there was this story about, I think it was the Lunts, of the Luntfontein Theater, and they were doing a show, and I guess he at one point he said, "Darling, could I have a glass of tea?" And it got a big laugh, and a few months into the run, it was sort of pulling back, and so he said it more emphatically, "Can I have a glass of tea?" And then it got lesser and lesser and lesser, and finally he said, "I don't know what to do. Why am I losing the laugh? Why are they not laughing?" And she said, "Darling, if you ask for a laugh, you'll get nothing. If you ask for a glass of tea, you'll get a laugh." And it's just sort of like a good reminder to stay focused not only on the physicality and specificity of what you're doing result-wise, but like the reason inside of it. It really makes a big difference.
What does your roadmap look like? I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, I'll show you my script later. It's not like a
Does
clear.
it have stick figure
No,
sketches?
no. It's not quite as sort of fully transcribed as that. It's in the script. I just have lots of, literally, I'll put bullet points of like ideas, thoughts. Here he can trip. Here she can forget her lines. Is there a song here? That kind of thing. So it's mostly ways to keep the rehearsal room sort of fertile and productive and inventive and fun. And also for me, the brass tacks of how does someone get on stage? How do they get off stage? Where do they have to exit in order to go upstage and all the way around and be on the other side by now? So you have to be aware of that. It's like a sports coach. Like you're literally thinking of your plays, but you have to think of it on different levels. And the set,
cool.
I mean, when you're designing a set like this, I should say the set for Noises Off is fairly standard. It was written with a certain layout, that there had to be a certain amount of doors, there has to be a staircase, there has to be downstairs, there has to be a window. But I usually, when I'm looking at a new play, a comedy like this or a musical, is like think of the most difficult moment in the show to achieve. So like, Les Mis, how are we going to do the barricade? Once we figure that out, then we could talk about everything else. But let's talk about the hardest part. And for this show, usually it starts with, I think, the stairs, like falling down the stairs is a huge thing. So that's something we interestingly did a lot of work on and thought about like how we could make it happen in a safe way, and in a lot of good that did, and in and also in a way that looked dangerous. So
I should mention that we have a stunt coordinator on our show, which is not a usual position on a theater show.
yeah, he was here full time, following everything we did and trying to adjust. Like you have to have that insurance policy, but it's like going to see Cirque du Soleil. Like if you went and there was a net right under them, I don't think people would be so excited. Like that thrill. No, you want to believe that there's some danger, and that's part of this. It's part of the fun of this play. And really, one could argue any play or musical you're going to see because you believe on some level these people are in peril and that something is at risk emotionally, narratively. In the moment, there's a chemistry, a combustion that feels a little bit dangerous. And I think you know it, even if you don't always articulate it, and even if it's not always conscious, you know it because you'll laugh at the unexpected. And if you expect it, you'll go, ha ha, that's cute. It's different.
One of the things I love about this show, it's really how it brings you all into our world in a way that I think is, obviously very funny, but also really kind of frighteningly authentic.
These archetypes are on. They are spot on.
They're
It's so
so
crazy.
real. It's so
Especially
real.
working in like a couple months ago, I was teching Dracula in London, and I was reading this, and I just kept thinking they are the same thing. Like, there's always the actor who's like, you've gone through 5 weeks of rehearsal, and in the middle of tech, he's like, I'm so sorry. Why do I pick up the phone? I'm like, we talked about this. It's been over a month. And it drives you crazy, but that's in this play. I couldn't believe it. And also in England, everyone has this weird, indirect style of communication. So they very rarely will say exactly what they're thinking. Case in point, like the first time when I was doing Guys and Dolls there, and we tried something on like day one of rehearsal, and Claire Foster, lovely, lovely woman who was playing Sarah, she tried something, and I said, I don't think that works. Let's try something else. And she went, I'm sorry. And I was like, what? And she said, you're awfully harsh. And I said, well, what would you like me to say? You didn't say it doesn't work. You say, let's give it a think. So I said, okay. That became my thing.
It really is so entertaining to think that those Brits think of you as probably this like really direct and straightforward and like, no filter director, like the American. There's something funny about that.
It's definitely different. And that's why when Freddie in our show steps forward, he wouldn't say, I don't understand this. He prefaces it by saying, you know how stupid I am. I'm completely dim. It's me. So there's that. And then when our director Lloyd is talking to them, it's so acid. It's so filled with like sarcasm, and it's delicious. It's so much fun. So those of you who have a little bit of Anglophile in them will also relish that.
Yes, I also love technicals.
Yeah, technicals.
It's the technical.
Yeah, it's called tech. But I
call it
guess
tech.
we call it tech. But I don't even think they call it technicals in England.
Maybe
but
that's
maybe
a
they
70s
did in
thing.
the 70s. Or maybe he just made it up. But they all walk around. It's here we are in technicals. It's very funny.
I just love that.
It's like an alternate universe.
That's very, very much like what we go through. Let's talk about the casting, since you and I did that together. And now
Yes.
that it's like, what, the fourth or fifth show that we've done together.
Yes.
And so now I have in my head, what is a Gordon Greenberg actor? And I mean, I don't know how I articulate it really, but I have an idea of what a Gordon Greenberg actor is. We may have talked about this when we, did this for Dracula,
yeah.
but this in particular, we did do auditions. And then obviously there were some people we were just like, can we get Jefferson Mays?
Yeah.
But tell me about what you were looking for.
This, I think, it's the same idea as all those smaller plays we do in the White, which is like that fearlessness, that invention, that I almost call it like juiciness. It's like a porousness that your subconscious is close enough to your conscious that you'll let the ideas just spring forth and not watch yourself, which is the hardest thing. When I started writing, I was such a type A perfectionist that I couldn't write. I just couldn't get it out because it was never good enough for me. And you have to be willing to be wrong, to be dumb, to fail. All of these actors have enough confidence, esteem, sense of self that they're willing to be dumb, to be wrong, and that goes a very long way. And I usually have to lead the way, is acting the fool, so everyone else feels free. Then it unlocks it for them. And if you ever watch like a run through when actors are really nervous, guaranteed in the first scene they're going to mess something big up, and then after that they're great. So it's almost like just getting it out of the way. And saying this is not going to be perfect, but in the end, you're not coming to the theater to see perfect. You don't want to see a robot. Like, perfect is boring and dead. Like, this is This is imperfect. This is the kind of rough edges of life and all the things that we relate to because we're all alive. We're all human.
I think I also find that the actors that you're drawn to are true artists in the sense that they make very strong choices before they come into the room so that you have something to work with. Because I think sort of, less experienced actors have this idea that, I will just do whatever the director wants me to do, right?
Oh, right,
So they don't have a fully fleshed out version yet. But the folks that you have sort of surrounded your shows with are people who are just unique and and different and memorable in their own way. I mean, we talk about Orville being
Yeah.
Selston, which is, I mean, I've seen the show before at least twice, I want to say, and he's a very different Selston,
Yeah,
right? It's a
completely different.
very different take, even though it's the same lines, it's all the same actions, but there's something that's uniquely Orville.
Yes, and that's also why we always work together. Is people who make bold choices and are also willing to change on a dime, because as in life, like it's all about how nimble you are and being able to adjust and being resilient. And very often a younger actor in rehearsals will try something again. You're like, okay, let's try this, but this time really enlighten her. You don't come down so hard on her, just enlighten her. And they'll say, I don't know what you mean. And they freeze up because they're scared of being wrong. But again, I feel like for someone to say, all right, okay, I'll try something, tell me if it's bad. And if you can go with that attitude, it really makes it so much more enjoyable and more fruitful. And I also think as you get older, you develop a little bag of tricks. Like you have your backstops, you have things have worked in the past, and you also know what to avoid and how to navigate landmines and personalities, and when to stop, when to say, let's take a break. It's cool because you are also, as an actor professionally, preheated oven. You're getting all hot because you got to bake a pie. And sometimes, so all that is to say, you just have to be aware that you're dealing with people who are engines of creativity, and you have to be aware of what they need also to operate well.
I think it's time for some questions. I'm sure this audience has a couple. Yes, we have someone here. We have mics for those of you who want to ask questions so that everyone in the room can hear you. Second row here, yeah.
We have seen Noses Off a couple of times and really enjoyed it. But I've never seen Noises Off. How do they relate to each other?
Wait, excuse me. You said you've seen Noses Off? Is that a play?
Okay, maybe we're wrong.
Yes.
I've never heard of it.
I've never heard of that either.
Okay.
That's so funny. Well, what was Noses Off about?
It was just a big comedy.
Did it take place on stage and backstage?
I don't remember.
Oh, wow. Well, you would remember. You'd probably remember.
No.
Yeah. So, in any case, it'll feel like it's brand new for you tonight. So, that's the advantage.
Other questions? Really? Because we'll keep talking. Oh, back here right here. Let's start with you, and then we'll go to the back.
And tell me not to ask it, but this has to do with Dracula. Can I ask one quick one? Was the star in Dracula, who played Dracula, did he go on to do that anywhere else?
George Crissa is Canadian, and he has been in many Hallmark movies as a leading man. As a result, they filmed them all in Canada, I think. And he's now in Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet in Toronto. And then he's going into Anne Juliet as Shakespeare in the sit-down company in Toronto. So
He's doing just fine.
he's doing great. And then, oddly, the guy that played Dracula in New York and London is his neighbor in Toronto, just by coincidence. Something's in the water there. And he's doing a play in Toronto, and then he's going back to London. We're going to open in the West End in January in the winter. So that's
so
his.
excited.
Yeah.
All right. We had a question in the back, please. She's coming with it.
As a director, I don't think is it working?
Yes.
As a director, what makes you cast the same actor in your next play? I mean, what do you look for other than probably being agreeable and nice and good? But what else do you look for?
Agreeable, nice, and good is huge for me. That's enough.
In this business, it's so valuable.
It's rare. So I think a known quantity is great because they know me, I know them. We can bring out the best in each other, and it makes it easier to do pre-production and to think about what is possible. Of course, I love meeting new people and I love discovering that, but the reality is that because rehearsal periods are shorter than they used to be, I mean, back in the day, it was 4 or 5 weeks was standard. Now it's more like 3 weeks. In England, it's still 6 to 7. It's a very different feel, and people there work much more slowly. It's very different. People here come in ready to work. Like it's just it's an American vibe. Like people come in to do it, to get it done, and they're aware of the commercial aspects too. It's true. And in England, it's a little more, they all want to talk. So, yeah.
Are you saying like table work takes like 2
Oh
weeks?
my gosh, table work. Yeah, you have to sit around the table and really talk about it. And if it's Virginia Woolf, yes. But if it's Noises Off, no table work. Yeah? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm enjoying this so much. But I wanted to ask you a question. Like, Noises Off is funny and the energy's different than I would imagine when you directed Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And I was going to ask you about their approaches to the two different vibes.
Yeah. That particular play is so dark and so challenging to explore in an honest way. It was, I'm not going to lie, it was, I got a little sad doing it, just because I really did go there. But my goal for that play was to turn it into a match of equals and to bring out the comedy as much as possible. And because I'm a little bit of a Pollyanna, at the end to believe that George and Martha, having spewed all that bile and got through the darkest bits of all their secrets, had a chance at something. And so at the end, when they walk up that staircase, I flooded it with light, and I just thought something good might be on the other side. And I always believe that there's a possibility of a happy ending. So that's how I got through that. But the process was a lot more cerebral than the process here, where they really have to understand, because it's so obscure, a lot of what he talks about. And that play has been through several revisions. So sometimes we just went back to earlier drafts to find the answers. But, it's still shocking that some people came out going, wait, so where's the kid? I was like, there's no child. No baby.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
She was waiting first, and then we'll come to you.
Who was waiting first?
Right here. She's got it.
Are you willing to share anything that you are looking for that you might still be looking to finesse while you still have a few more previews?
Here? Oh, yes. I mean, there's so many moments that we're like fine tuning, and you'll see so much of this is just about timing. And because one of the major parts in the show changed 2 days ago, all of his timing is different. So everyone's trying to adjust and figure out how to make that as winning as possible. So I would say all of that. There's some Lotzi, that means shtick, in the show with the telephone, which you'll see. And that we've been working on that a lot too. I'm trying to think what else. And it's also like, interestingly, the vulnerability of the characters is something we've talked about too. Like, what's the risk? Why does the character need the audience at the beginning in some way? And Mrs. Clackett, who is played in the show by the character Dottie, who is played by the actress Linda Muggleston, who was Renfield and Dr. Westfeld in Dracula, gets to be female now for the first time in a red wig designed to look like my grandmother. But she's amazing, and it's interesting. We did have a long talk because there are aspects of that role that could be seen as almost combative, like Patti LuPone played it a few years ago. But I think that character, what's fascinating about her is how unsure she is, and an actor at age 60 who's kind of can't quite remember everything and is going, they're just on the precipice of feeling secure and also feeling like they're jumping off a cliff. And so she's right in the middle. And then to add pressure, she has invested her life savings in this production. Like, who's going to do that? To secure her future and buy a house, she invested in a play. I mean, that's crazy. But that just tells you where her head's at.
All right.
I just wondered.
Go ahead. You can
say something about being. Oh, I just wondered. I heard you say something about it would be good to be British or know some British people and how things are done to get an appreciation of the play. But I have good friends who are theatregoers, And when they heard we were going to see it, they said, "Oh, that play was terrible. I saw it in New York and we walked out." And I was shocked.
Are they English
because-
or American?
No, they're American.
Ugh.
And I'm just wondering, yeah. I wonder if maybe they didn't know enough about England or English people to get that enjoyment. Do you feel it's necessary to have been around British people a little bit or know a little bit about England?
I just
and
think it's
Britain?
additive. I don't think it's necessary. And the truth of the matter is, anyone can see a great play on a bad day. And
Yeah.
you're not going to have fun if if you're not feeling well. You buy your tickets far in advance.
Well, I wasn't listening to that. I wouldn't go, but I was sad that they worked out because I heard such great things all the
They
time.
should try it again.
Yeah, I will tell them.
Yeah,
you
come
gotta
here.
see Gordon Greenberg's
Yeah, exactly.
version.
And tell them, there were things like in America at the beginning of a play, when you want the actors to be ready to go on, you say places. Everyone, like, it's kind of known here. That's not what they say in England. They say beginners. And they
No,
call
that's
everybody by name. Like, it's still a little bit formal. They'll say, beginners, Miss Heil, Mr. Greenberg, and that's what they do. And then they'll say, I did not hear beginners. I did not hear beginners. I always think it's so cute. But they say beginners in this play. That's one of the things. But I think you'll find stuff. You'll probably find little Easter eggs in there. Like, you probably know who Myra Hess was. Do you? Really? Neither did I.
didn't.
Neither did I.
I looked her up.
Yes, but that's a
Been here
joke.
Too long.
I guess she played a pianist who played in ballrooms in England during World War II while they were being bombed, and she just kept playing like the band on the Titanic. And he compares Selsden to Myra Hess playing through the wars because he doesn't know what's going on. He just keeps going.
Glad you told me.
Well, we could keep talking,
Yes.
Gordon, but we have to let these beautiful people go and see the show, or hopefully, if you're not seeing the show tonight, you'll come back sometime during the run. But thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you, Gordon, for speaking with us. Enjoy Noises Off.